Fine Gael leader, Deputy Kenny, to put his question.
The late James Dillon, who led this party with distinguished fashion for a number of years, used to say that politics is a vocation that draws people into stormy waters as well as calm. And this is true. And everybody who serves whatever party or none here understands that. This is a profession that has taken a beating in on many fronts, some justified and some not. Now, I've never accepted that it is unconstitutional for the government to legislate to put an end to the payment of ministerial pensions to persons who serve in the Oireachtas. Prior to the budget last year, the Fine Gael party put forward a pre-budget submission that legislation should be introduced to end that practice for all members of the Oireachtas who are in receipt of a legitimate ministerial pension, put an end to that practice. The Minister for Finance refused to divulge to me the legal advice that the Attorney General gave in this regard. I understand it's been related to the principle of legitimate expectation, but the government did proceed in July last year to pass a bill through the House giving effect to a new law that from the first day of the next Dáil, no person who had ministerial experience and was entitled to a ministerial pension would be in receipt of that pension. And the government followed that by a reduction of the scale of pensions paid to persons who served as former ministers. The Fine Gael party published today a bill giving effect immediately to the termination of payments of ministerial pensions to persons who are serving members of the Oireachtas. My challenge to the Taoiseach is to accept this bill and put an end to this practice for once and for all concerned, so that the relentless pursuit of individuals can then be dealt with once and for all. If you do not accept my proposal, Taoiseach, it is my intention to place it before the Dáil as a private member's business next week and have it voted on by Fianna Fáil and the Greens in government. I ask you therefore to accept this bill as a method and a means of putting an end to this practice, and I want you to understand that in the event that your government votes it down, that all of those from the Fine Gael party who are entitled to draw legally a ministerial pension will voluntarily give up that pension or give it to charity.
Bishop.
Well, as Deputy Kenny said, this matter arose last year when in fact we legislated on this matter, and the issues that arose then relate to the entitlement under existing law regarding it being a property right, and property rights are protected under the Constitution, we're advised. Any reduction or removal of pensions by legislation has to be proportionate. And of relevance in determining what is proportionate are the reductions which have been imposed on other groups. That's the advice we have from the Attorney General. As you know, there's a convention not to issue or to publish advice, but that's the essence of the advice. And the pension entitlement then for former ministers who are serving members of the Oireachtas will be abolished from the date of the next election. That's the existing position. It was the position that we were advised, consistent with the law, was what was possible. And therefore, unlike the last election, when deciding whether or not to contest the next election, persons will not have a legitimate expectation that they will continue to receive a ministerial pension while in receipt of an Oireachtas salary. A similar approach was taken in 1992, when changes to the receipt of ministerial pensions for Oireachtas members did not take effect until after a general election had intervened, and presumably the same legal issue arose then as before. I haven't seen or studied any proposal that has come from Fine Gael in relation to this matter. I can have it examined, obviously, but I'm clearly making the point that the position that we have been outlining is based on the Attorney General's advice, and as you know, the government has to abide by the Attorney General's advice. We have to.
Brief supplementary, Deputy Kenny.
Well, this is not 1992, Taoiseach, and it cannot be and is not business as usual. The bill that the Fine Gael party have published today, I have received legal advice about that, and that legal opinion says that it is quite constitutional to put this bill through and end this practice for everybody who is so entitled at the moment now, and to do it immediately. And my point is that the members of my party are voluntarily willing to give up those pensions if your party does not accept the bill that I put forward, which will deal with Fianna Fáil members as well. In fact, there are some strong reports around the place that the reason there is reluctance about this is because some members, obviously, of your own party who have considerable ministerial experience would be in receipt of pretty significant pensions. In any event, Taoiseach, this is a matter that is not of 1992. This is 2010. There is, yes, you will, Ceann Comhairle. The public at large are very angry about the mismanagement of public finances. This is an issue that has been around for some time now, and it is unfair to have a situation where some do and some don't. My view, and the view of my party, is that you can legislate for this in the same way as you said in 1992 property rights were affected. Property rights are affected after the next election as well. So the question is, are you prepared, on the basis that all the members of this party who are so affected are prepared to voluntarily give up these ministerial pensions? As I understand it, the members of the Labour Party who are entitled to these legitimate pensions are voluntarily prepared to give them up also. Are you prepared to say in the House here that you will speak or will call in your own members and arrive at a similar position if you're still reluctant to introduce the legislation, or if you're prepared to vote it down next week?
I've made it clear to the Deputy it's not a question of reluctance on the part of the government. It's a question of the government having to propose legislation that is lawful. And it's not a question of challenge. It's a question of having lawful legislation. And the advice that we have taken in this matter, I'm not saying it's the same as 1992 or any previous time. I'm saying the same legal principles apply clearly, because the similar approach was taken then to the question of the abolition of pensions in respect of last year's legislation. And the Minister for Finance outlined that position in detail. So it's not a question of any party being reluctant to bring forward legislation. It's about having to do this matter in a legal and lawful way. So I've made the point, and I continue to make the point, that the issue of where you obviously can't abolish property rights, what you then have to do is have a proportionate reduction, which we've done. There's been a reduction of 25%, as people will know. If people wish to gift or wish to make a further contribution based on the present situation, that's a matter for each individual to consider and reflect upon, and to give them that opportunity. And I think that, from my point of view, I've been very anxious to ensure that that discretion is applied to it.